Hello there, and welcome to episode 15 of Dead Reflections Podcast, being recorded live on Twitch. We are your hosts,
Caleb.
Kolby.
and I'm your boy Josh, aka Drifter Voyages. Thank you so much for watching and listening. New episodes drop every Monday and Friday.
Boy said watching.
Watching. It's okay, we move.
What did I say?
You said watching and listening.
Jeez. Our goal here is to give someone at the table the chills, and if we're lucky, we might even send some spoops along to you.
Before we get into the show, we'd like to announce a couple FWF or Familiar with Failure updates, upcoming show dates. Next week, May 25th in Austin at Hole in the Wall, May 27th in Austin at Fourth Tap Brewery, July 9th in Midland at Sound Deep Forever Fest, August 4th, this is a new one, added in San Angelo at the Dojo, August 5th in Houston at the White Swan. There are a few more in the works, but we won't announce until dates are secure. We have a brand new Broken Tongue tee only available at shows with limited stock. Come by, talk to us about spooky stuff, enjoy some metal, and pick up a shirt. And on the topic of merch, what do y'all have on tonight?
I can't reach my microphone.
I am wearing Wicked Clothes merch. I've got this awesome kitty cat necromancy shirt on. It's pretty cute, and my paranormal investigator hat because we are paranormal investigators now.
Indeed.
I believe so.
We've got all the stuff. I feel
We
like.
do, actually.
What do you got on?
Most of the stuff.
So I got on, actually can't remember if I wore this already or not, but if I did, regardless, it's a great shirt. This is for Annie of Sound Deep, a promoter in the West Texas area who has had a lot of health issues with brain and heart stuff. I don't want to say it because I'm probably going to say it wrong.
Mainly hard stuff.
But mainly heart stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, this was a shirt to help her out with the costs of it. So it says, these bones don't shake. And then on the back, it's a heart that says, cut me open and see what's inside.
Nice. Is that
Sick.
lyrics to something?
I don't know. I have no
That's
idea.
sick.
It might
It's
be.
very cool.
If it's not some
Yeah.
other band's lyrics, we should.
I mean, it's
you
like
should
some-
let us
If you're
use them.
if you're new to Familiar with Failure, Annie is one of the awesome.
Promoters, magazine entrepreneur.
Yeah, she's a
like,
magazine
just a-
business
lot.
owner.
Yeah.
She does a lot, and she's killing it. And we're playing a show in Midland, Odessa, in what was that?
July 9th.
July.
July 9th.
July.
And that newly added show at in San Angelo is also with Brightburn. So,
Okay, nice.
Nice. Everybody's in Brightburn. We love Brightburn.
and I just got this shirt today. It's Justice for the Damned. They're a hardcore band from Australia, and they are sick.
Yeah, Colby just showed them to me, and they're fucking they go hard.
All the way from across the pond, and not the British pond, the other pond. And it
Oh,
was
did
cool.
you forget your boner?
Forgot
It
my
was cool.
boner.
They sent a mask, has a nice little scorpion on it,
Yeah, scorpion.
and also a carabiner with their name
Very,
on
very
it.
cool.
That's such an
Yeah.
interesting word.
I just ordered
Carabiner.
the shirt, and they sent the
Very sick.
Those
We
two.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a sick shirt, dude.
yeah.
Sick
The back
shirt.
is sicker.
Sick.
So,
all right. So
Last
what did?
episode
Yeah.
was Witches, which came out in the morning.
All I have
In
to
the
say is,
morning.
witches ain't shit, and they ain't saying nothing.
Okay,
sorry.
great. That was great. I enjoyed that.
I also made a book.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Colby did make a book, so he's
Colby
going to be
made
telling
a
us
giant
stories.
book. It is a giant book.
So, last episode was Witches. That's the sound of the book.
Jesus Christ.
And we drew at the end of the episode serial killers. And we had kind of mentioned before that there were different routes to go with this. I think all of us went with an actual serial killer story rather than the paranormal side.
Mm-hmm.
But if Josh, you want to give a little tiny baby teaser at what yours is going to be about?
So mine hits close to home, actually in between. If anybody here in Texas lives off of Interstate Highway 20, in between Odessa and Fort Worth, well, I have some news for you. My serial killer story is about the infamous serial killer Richard Douglas White a.k.a. the Rest Stop Boogeyman of West Texas.
Stop Boogeyman.
Yeah.
Like just West Texas, or
Yeah, because it's on Interstate 20, which is from...
because that's a lot of ground.
It is
well,
like
it's
that.
it's literally, there's 3 rest stops in between Odessa and Fort Worth.
This
And
was his
this is
hunting
stomping
ground,
grounds.
yeah.
Yeah, hunting grounds.
Gotcha.
So Colby, yours is not in America at all.
Not.
Okay.
And
Can
it's
you give a
not even recent.
little teaser?
So mine is about Leonardo Cianciulli, who is a Italian serial killer. She's known as the soap maker of Correggio.
The soap maker.
The soap maker.
A lot of things popping up in my mind.
Wait. She makes soap?
She made soap.
Maybe she made soap out of people.
Ooh.
I have no idea.
Ooh.
Find out.
Find out.
I don't like it.
So you're the seat, but you'll only need the edge.
And then tonight, mine is going to be the railroad killer of Texas, but he also killed in California, Illinois, Mexico.
Oh,
He's
man. I
very-
didn't know. Oh, that's right, because he was just... I remember.
Yes, he's very prolific, and the reason he was picked is because 3 of his murders happened maybe a 20 to 25-minute drive away from where we are currently sitting. Yeah, in the town that Colby and I work, and we'll get into that a little bit more whenever I ended the episode on
Yeah.
our story on this story.
And
That's intense.
I was present for you
lot of the
doing
research.
the research of the story, and
Yeah.
let me tell you, it is fucking terrifying.
The last thing I'll add about it is that it is probably the most recent, because I believe yours was early 90s. This one starts in the very late 80s and wraps up in 2006.
Damn, it was that close? Like, I didn't realize it was
Yeah.
only that long ago.
Yeah, I'll explain it a little bit more,
Oh, man.
So I'm quickly realizing, oh shit,
but candle.
all gonna burn.
Quickly realizing the book is a bit of a nuisance.
The
So
book is pretty giant.
we
It's a
will.
phenomenal prop.
Yeah,
We will
you did a
use
great
it.
job.
We will use it some other time.
Okay,
Great job.
Gotta do a little practice,
I just wanted to make a book,
and that you did.
and I did.
And that you did.
You made that book, and I am proud of you.
Thank you. But yeah, are we ready for some spooks?
Oh,
I am indeed ready for some spooks.
I'll take that back now. God damn it. All right. So, like I said before,
Wait, candle before we
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
move further.
I-
Further.
For,
Further.
it's my turn to fuck up now.
I know. Hey, we get it out here.
we are
Get it out
lighting
in
the
beginning.
ceremonial candle, welcoming all evil spirits to touch Colby as he reads the story.
Please touch me all over.
I think this is going to be a long episode, too. This might be a little bit of a lengthier one.
Yeah,
So,
forewarned.
Serial killers
Strap
tend to
in.
have a lot of
Information.
information and detail. So, without further ado, this is the story of the soap maker of Correggio.
I want that one for mine, too.
So, before we go into who Leonardo Cianciulli was, we must first understand her parents. Her mother, Emilia Dinolfi, was born into an upper class of Italian family in the late 1800s. Back then, it was normal for upper class families to have arranged marriages where young daughters were introduced to a potential suitor. Young Amelia had not completed her studies, but was approaching the age of which most young girls had a decision to make on who they would marry by then. She had attended a gala on a warm summer's evening and decided she wanted to walk home alone instead of being escorted by her family chaperone. And I'll go ahead and say here, trigger warning, there's a lot of terrible things that go on early in the story.
Yeah, we've noticed
Okay.
with the serial killer thing that it's pretty intense.
They're all going to be pretty rough, and I think each
So if
story is going
you-
to have a respective trigger warning.
So
beforehand.
if you have issues with people talking about rape and murder, I would go ahead and tune out or come back
You
later.
can totally just skip this episode.
Yeah.
We understand.
Yeah, I'd get it for sure.
So she attended the gala and she decided to walk home. Little did she know a man was outside the gala waiting for her to be alone, and this was his chance. Amelia started walking down a garden pathway when this man appeared from behind some bushes, approached Amelia, and started grabbing at her dress. Amelia's immediate thought was that she was the butt end of some prank her friends were pulling. Now, Amelia was very young, and in those times, young adults, especially young women, weren't really taught about sex. They just found out on their wedding night. And because of this, once she realized this wasn't a prank, poor Amelia began to think she was being robbed. The man then forced her to the ground, and in the desolate garden, he had his way. The saddest part is Amelia didn't even know what was happening, only that it hurt her. The man that attacked her was named Mariano Cianciulli, a poor, unemployed, local Italian drunk. Now, bear in mind, Mariano was never said his exact age, but he was known to be older. Okay. And Amelia was about 16, 17 at this time. Amelia lay there for hours in pain and very confused. She got up in a daze, walked home, and went straight to bed. The next morning is when she really grasped what happened. Felt ashamed. She cleaned herself up and told no one. A few months passed, and both her mother and her servants realized Amelia hasn't had a period in quite a while. And of course, they knew what that meant. Her parents sat her down and asked her if she had done the deed with any of her suitors, and who, to which she denied. Then they told her they would go around every suitor she had entertained in the past couple of months and ask them why she was pregnant, to which Amelia knew she couldn't deny any longer and told them the truth of what happened. Amelia's parents were in absolute shock at the situation and knew this act towards their daughter would ruin their reputation in high-class Italian society. So instead of tracking down Mariano and beating the shit out of him for raping their daughter, they invited him and his whole family over for dinner.
What?
They then reached the decision that Amelia and Mariano would be married at once.
What?
To cover up the fact that Mariano attacked and raped Amelia. Mariano and Amelia married, then moved to a very poor neighborhood of Montella, where Mariano would continue to not work and drink all day, forcefully having his way with his newly won bride. Meanwhile, Amelia, a teenager, who was raised in a huge wealthy household where she had any and every chore and task done for her by servants, had to live in a tiny shack with a shared public restroom. Every night, Mariano would get drunk and frustrated that the house was dirty and beat Amelia, who was never taught how to do simple chores. Over time, this abuse and emotional toll of her friends and family basically giving her away to save their reputation turned her heart cold. And by the time the baby was born, she was changed forever. On April 18th, 1894, Leonardo Cianciulli was born. Leonardo.
Not Donatello.
And you think that having a child, someone to help you get through the very unfair situation you're in, would be a beacon of light and happiness for Amelia. Instead, this child was just a physical representation of all that she had lost. And over time, as taking care of the child is what it is, Amelia was not ready for any of it. She was never taught to care for a child because she grew up knowing that she would have nannies take care of her own children, the same way her parents did with her. So as Leonardo grew, Amelia's resentment for her did as well. Amelia, in her new world of abusive monster of a husband and the society that had outcasted her, she saw Leonardo as a smaller, weaker person than her and used her as a metaphorical and literal punching bag. Instead of raising her only child with love and support, she used Leonardo as her only way of feeling superior towards another being. After all, how could she have raised her with love when her own family gave her away to a man who wanted nothing more to get his rocks off? She was a product of her own environment, and soon Leonardo would also become part of that environment. 3 years of torture later, one day, Mariano didn't come home. Amelia waited around, hoping he would eventually stumble in with some sort of groceries to feed her and little Leonardo. But 2 days passed, no Mariano. Amelia takes Leonardo and begins walking around the neighborhood asking if anyone has seen him. Eventually, she's led to one of his friends' houses, where Mariano has been in a coma for the last 3 days, fighting off a very high fever. Amelia manages to get Mariano back to their home, where she lays him down in bed and sort of forgets about him. She didn't really forget about him. She didn't call a doctor. For one, who would pay for a doctor? And two, Amelia saw this as her chance to free herself from the abusive torture. Being a widow as a young child wasn't ideal, but because of where she came from, it was a little bit easier to find a better husband. It could have been what she dreamed of before everything happened, but it had to be better than... It couldn't have been what she had dreamed of before, but it had to be better than what she was living in now. Leonardo didn't really have memories of her father, being that she was only 3 when he died, but she did have one vivid memory at his funeral. After everyone left and it was just Amelia and little Leonardo, they both stared down onto Mariano's fresh grave as Amelia delivered a fresh mouthful of spit directly onto the patted down soil that covered his casket. Leonardo remembers hearing her mother whisper under her breath, "Good riddance." Amelia then sought after a new husband, but being a widow with a child, none followed suit. So she began hanging in the wrong crowd. The men she began hanging around did have money, but that money came from many sources of illegal activities. No better money in late 1890s Italy than the mob. In fact, in 1986, there was a bust of 31 organized crime members in the exact neighborhood that Amelia grew up in.
Damn.
Amelia married another man who spent money just as fast as he made it, and he did not care for Leonardo one bit. Amelia knew that this wasn't right. This wasn't the right choice, but she simply didn't care. She had gotten closer to the life she thought she would have since she was a young girl. She received fine gifts, went dancing and drinking every night, all while little Leonardo was stuck at home raising herself. Sometimes Leonardo would go several nights with no dinner. When her mother was around, she was sure to remind Leonardo how much she was hated. With the isolation as a young child, Leonardo was never assured that when bad things happened in life, that everything would be all right. This premise alone would explain the rash decisions Leonardo would make later in her life. Leonardo first attempted to take her own life when she was 13 years old. She fashioned a noose around her bed sheets, using her bed sheets, and tried to hang herself from the ceiling rafters, but the knots came loose and she fell. She then couldn't speak for a week because she had crushed her larynx. Her mother didn't even notice that her daughter was unable to speak, nor did she notice the severe bruising on her neck. Leonardo attempted to take her life in the same way a year later, but failed again. She was in a constant state of depression for most of her early adult life. But on the outside, Leonardo was seen as a bright young woman. When she became a teenager, her mother noticed how beautiful she had become and finally started showing interest in her only child. Amelia realized that if Leonardo played her cards right, she could land herself a nice upper class husband and could restore her tainted family name. It was also tradition that if a woman married a high-class man, that man would also take care of her family. So Amelia put all her effort into making her daughter the most valued young woman in all of Italy. While her mother was quickly part of high society again, searching in secret for rich suitors to be her new son-in-law, Leonardo was out looking for a husband of her own. She thought that finding a husband and getting married was the quickest way for her to get away from the abusive, depressing life she was having. Leonardo began seeing a lovely registry clerk named Raphael Pansardi and imagined a stable, steady, loving relationship with him, a feeling she had never truly felt, and she craved it more than ever. Raphael proposed to Leonardo, which she did not hesitate to say yes to. Amelia, her mother, was livid. but still kept secret that she had been searching for another suitor. Instead of telling Leonardo she had much more wealthy suitors in line to marry her daughter, she expected her to obey her commands. That if she were to marry Raphael, she would never approve of it and would curse her daughter. Thus such happened. Because Amelia never told Leonardo what she was doing, Leonardo assumed it was just another way for her mother to use her as her personal punching bag, making her life more miserable. Leonardo made up her mind and decided she would marry Raphael. Amelia, in response, made a calm and chilling promise to her daughter. You will live a miserable life until the day you die. Those were the last words Amelia uttered to her daughter. When Leonardo was finally released from the emotional grasp of her mother, the feelings of not being good enough still stuck with her, and it became a mantra of sorts. Every time she would make a mistake, despite her new husband being there to tell her to relax, she would never get over the emotional toll of her early life that she was used to. Every day she pushed herself to the brink of what she could do, and usually every day she would end it in tears. She would often have fits of seizures and extreme anxiety attacks. Raphael even noticed that she would seem some amount afraid at all times. These are just some characteristics that would come into play in her later events. So Leonardo decided to visit a Romani, which is a traveling fortune teller, who traced the lines of her hand. Her eyes followed her love line, her heart line, and her head line, but paused when she came to her fate line. She told her, "You are not going to die for a long time, but you will live a life of sadness and outlive all of your children." To her, this window into Leonardo's fate overlapped with her mother's curse. While she was married, she got pregnant 17 times. With each pregnancy, Leonardo felt the anxiety immensely grow inside of her. Of those 17 times, 3 of the pregnancies were lost due to miscarriages, and 10 of the other children died in their youth. So Leonardo would go to any lengths to protect her remaining 4 children. Her first pregnancy ended in miscarriage due to her massive amounts of stress and anxiety. Her and Raphael decided to move to Raphael's hometown in southern Italy, where Leonardo felt safe for the first time. Her second pregnancy would be a success. Her first son, who she called her miracle child, was born. She named him Giuseppe. Giuseppe. From that day, she made a promise to keep Giuseppe safe at all costs. Her life was finally peaceful for the first time. But because she was used to keeping herself busy, she became bored with it. She decided to make something and sell it. She bought all the ingredients she needed to make soaps and other health items. She began to become popular amongst the town and felt another sense of worth that was new to her. Then, disaster struck. Once again.
How much like turmoil and shit can like a family go through, dude? This is crazy.
On July 23rd, 1930, the Irpinia earthquake struck. It would later be categorized as one of the most destructive earthquakes in Italian history. She was one of the thousands who lost their homes in the disaster. She and her family then moved to the peaceful city of Correggio in northern Italy. She continued to make and sell her soaps and health items because she found more self-worth in that business. Plus, it kept her busy. She still felt like something was off. So she went to see the fortune teller once again. The fortune teller did nothing to quell her fears. She held her hands and proceeded to tell Leonardo, "In your right hand, I see prison. On your left, a criminal asylum." Meaning that whichever road she decided to go down, it would lead her to one or both of these places during the end of her days. In 1939, her son Giuseppe announced, that he was going to enlist in the Italian army. Like many Italians during that time, he wanted to do his part in World War II. At that time was when Mussolini was becoming a god to them, basically. This announcement, combined with their belief in superstitions, set the wheels in motion for Leonardo Cianciulli to become one of the most infamous female serial killers of the 20th century. But in the late 1930s, while living in a small province nestled in the Matese and Pesatini Mountains in Italy, Leonardo resorted to superstition and paranoia. As it turns out, there is some evidence to suggest that Cianciulli's superstitious beliefs were a sign of deep-seated anxiety and depression. Today, many clinical psychologists believe that superstitions are born out of fractured minds' attempts to make sense of the nonsensical. But of course, it's impossible to know whether modern medical treatment could have prevented what happened next. Dwelling on her mother's curse and the Romani fortune teller's prediction, Leonardo became very deeply superstitious. She started giving palm readings herself. And all the people of Correggio would come to her shop and and basically just have their fortunes read, tell gossip, buy soaps, the whole thing. Even men would come and have their hands read.
So they would get their hands clean with the soap and their hands red with
Yeah.
Leonardo. That's crazy.
It's perfect. So she was very well liked and very well trusted and respected. When her son Giuseppe told her he was going to join the Italian army, she turned to the one thing that she believed would keep him safe. That one thing: human sacrifice.
Makes sense.
Big jump, but okay.
Yeah.
Leonardo believed that in order to protect her son from dying, the one son that she cared about, that she had to trade a life for a life.
I get it, yeah.
So her brilliant plan was to kill a person and make their body into soaps and food and feed and bathe her son Giuseppe
Oh, God.
with said items.
I didn't think that this could get any more like crazy, and that just takes the cake. Topping on the cake. All right.
Cianciulli got her idea to sacrifice humans in order to save her son from dying in the war from the same fortune teller who predicted her future. Roman Catholicism, prevalent in Italy during this time, forbade human sacrifice as an abomination before God. Additionally, there's no known Romani belief or superstition that embraces human sacrifice. But this is what the Romani traveler told her. And if you don't know about the Romani, they're basically a different race of Italian that were basically outcasted. And like at one point, it was illegal to be Romani. Yeah.
Like
You
a
were born?
Khajiit.
Yeah, I was literally about to say like a Khajiit.
Yeah. Leonardo would go on to murder 3 women before she was caught. Her first victim was a local spinster woman named Faustina Setti. Inviting Setti over to her home under the intention of setting her up with a husband in 1939. So Setti was a very a pure woman. She's never been with a man, and that was her number one intention in life, is to find a husband. And so she uses people's intentions to bring them into their home.
Master manipulator.
Cianciulli instructed her to write letters to her family members, telling them that she would be visiting the man in Pola, Italy, which is on the island. Can't remember the name of the island, but it's separate from the mainland. Leonardo then drugged Setti with a spiked wine before murdering her with an axe. And from what I remember, her first swing, because Leonardo she'd never done anything to anyone, like, ever. She's never had any hatred towards any other person besides her mother. And so when she goes to kill this person with an axe. She misses and gets her right in the shoulder. And Seti, being drugged by this wine, is just like, whoa, what's going on?
What if she was like, you should have aimed for the head, and then snapped her fingers like Thanos?
So what Leonardo did, she gathered herself, and mainly why she got her in the shoulder was because she was too afraid to look, because she was afraid of killing a person. So she took the axe out, opened her eyes, hit her square in the forehead.
You would have thought that'd be like the best way to aim, like look at your target.
Beforehand, she set basins around her kitchen to gather the blood.
Oh, wow, that's smart.
Premeditated.
Not for cleaning.
Oh.
Well,
In the interview, she described what she did. She cut Seti up into 9 pieces, gathered her blood into a basin. I threw the pieces into a pot, added 7 kilos of caustic soda, which I had bought to make soap, stirred the whole mixture until the pieces dissolved in a thick, dark mush that I poured into several buckets and emptied in a nearby septic tank. As for the blood in the basin, I waited till it coagulated, dried it in the oven, ground it, and mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk, and eggs, as well as a bit of margarine. Kneading all the ingredients together, I made lots of crunchy tea cakes and served them to the ladies who came to visit. Also served them to my son Giuseppe.
It's a lot of detail that's disgusting.
Yeah. She also took the 30,000 Italian lire, which is equivalent to about $18 at the time. Mm-hmm. Adjusted for inflation is about $330. Her life savings, basically.
damn.
So took her money. I mean, she had to cover everything up. So
Yeah,
why not?
true.
Why not take the extra money?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So basically, no one found out about it because everyone thought this lonely woman was moving to an island to find a husband.
Yeah, it obviously worked because she didn't come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
On September 5th, 1940, Cianciulli found another victim, named Francesca Soavi. As with Seti, she convinced Soavi that she had organized a teaching job for her abroad at a girls' school in another place in Italy, made her write letters to her friends detailing the trip. And as she had done with Seti, she fed and drugged her with wine, killed her with an axe, baked her into tea cakes, and stole her money.
Okay.
So, so what this doesn't say about the first two is that the reason that she threw the rest of the body scraps into the garbage was she tried to use the body fat to make soaps. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't come out right. So that's the reason why she's continuing to kill people. She's trying to get her recipe right.
Yeah, she's perfecting.
Yeah. Her third victim, however, would be her last one. Virginia, I'm going to butcher this, Cacioppo was a noted soprano who once sang at the famed La Scala Opera House in Milan. Cianciulli had promised her a job working with an impresario in Florence, which prompted Giuseppe to pay her a visit on September 30th, 1940. As with her previous two victims, she fed Giuseppe spiked wine, killed her with an axe. This time, however, instead of only baking her body in the tea cakes and feeding them to neighbors, she melted her body fat down and turned it into soap. So her idea was that she was using regular people, and these people she didn't hate. She didn't have any guilt towards them, or not guilt. She didn't have any like motive to kill them.
Yeah.
But this this singer who had notoriety in Italian culture she was well liked, and she envied that. So that was her reasoning for killing the third victim.
Oh, okay.
Is that she needed a motive for the spell to work, because her original intention was to protect her son with this spell by sacrificing.
So the third one was more of a personal.
Yeah, she realized that it had to be something that she there was emotion tied to it. She then said in her autobiography, she ended up in the pot like the other two. Her flesh was fat and white. When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on boil, I was able to make some of the most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet. Although Leonardo thought she had committed the perfect murders, she could not have been more wrong. Unlike her first two victims, who had few concerned relatives, Cacioppo had a very worried sister-in-law. She didn't believe Cacioppo's letters detailing her quick departure, and had, in fact, seen her entering Leonardo's home the night she had left. Almost immediately, she reported her sister's disappearance to the police, who quickly investigated Cianciulli. At first, Leonardo defended herself. It was only when the police shifted the blame towards her beloved son Giuseppe that she finally broke down and admitted to everything. Cianciulli's trial lasted only a few days. She was found guilty of her crimes and granted a 33-year sentence that echoed the Romani woman's prophecy with an eerie accuracy. 30 years in a prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum. While locked away, she wrote her memoirs titled An Embittered Soul's Confessions. She described her process of disposing the bodies, along with her tea cake and soap recipes. On October 15th, 1970, Leonardo Cianciulli, now 79 years old, third year of being in the asylum, died of cerebral apoplexy, a type of hemorrhage similar to a stroke. Her body was returned to her family for burial, but her murder weapons, including the pot that her victims were boiled in, were donated to the Criminology Museum in Rome. To this day, museum visitors can see her collection of axes and peer inside the vat that she used to boil human beings.
That's insane.
Dude, okay, I have
How's
to,
that for a serial killer?
Yeah, I have to say that with everything that happened, it's almost like you can't even blame them for just having this like weird outlook and doing the things that they do.
Yeah,
Like,
so that was the big issue with the person that I watched tell this story, is that it sucks because you can't really put the blame on a single person. It was an entire event through like family history that made this woman so crazy.
So I have a fairly hard stance on this, on that subject.
Well, yeah,
because
on the other hand, she did crazy
Yes.
shit. She killed and ate people and served them to other people.
exactly, yeah.
So
I don't even weigh it.
tit for tat.
For
I
me,
guess.
it's not even that. It's not a weight thing.
Yeah.
It is that is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter because everyone goes through trauma.
Yeah.
There is nobody on this earth that doesn't experience something bad or unfortunate or horrific. Does not mean you have to kill people.
And so
That's true.
I didn't really.
It bothers me so much.
I didn't really
It
dive.
bothers me.
I didn't really dive as deep as I wanted to into the spiritual and witchy aspect of her, because she became like when it said very superstitious, it meant she became very superstitious.
That's what I was figuring. Yeah, I thought you were gonna like she was gonna embody that. You know, like just,
She
like,
basically
crazy,
did.
Yeah.
She became a fortune teller basically, and a there's a lot of discussion on the practices that she practiced, and like there's 3 types. I can't remember the name right now, but they're basically all witchcraft that the Romani had taught her.
Crazy. Well, can we hit a quick sponsor break and then talk a little bit more about that story?
No.
Yeah.
Can you hit that for me?
So we'll be right back after this brief sponsor break. All right. So for me, these are the things that I wrote down during your story.
Okay.
I heard every Ninja Turtle name.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Raphael,
Oh.
Michelangelo,
That's the time
Leonardo.
and that's the time and
I
location.
know, but
didn't say
still,
Michelangelo.
If you would have said Splinter, I swear to fucking God.
I didn't say Michelangelo,
You didn't say Michelangelo? I thought you did. Oh, then that's my favorite. So I was,
and her name is Leonardo.
Yeah.
Okay, the girl version. And then 1930. So this wasn't like a
So
1800s thing.
She was born in 1894 or 6, late 1890s.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she died. Jesus, she died in 1970.
Damn.
So she was
dude.
70.
That's
That's
crazy.
wild, yeah.
Like that's
79.
Really, it's really not that long ago. Like that.
Yeah.
It's
no.
not, no.
Yeah. No.
Dude.
Well,
like
when she killed people was long ago.
Yeah.
That was during the 40s.
I wonder if she has a little bit of inspiration for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because didn't they do that too? I know that Ed Gein did it. Like he's the main inspiration, but the soap thing.
I don't
feel
think
like
so.
that's-
I don't.
you don't think so?
I've
think so.
never seen. I've heard of people eating people, obviously,
Yeah.
but I've never seen people make human pieces into like stuff and like sell them. Like she did, like she with the leftover stuff that
Yeah.
she didn't use for Giuseppe, she sold.
Yeah, so this is where I'll interject. I wrote down a pop culture reference, Sweeney Todd.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And
dude.
that-
The
yeah.
demon barber.
I wonder how much of like that concept came from her too. Because
Possibly.
I don't know how famous this story is, but it
It's
sticks. That's gonna stick with me for a while. For
it,
sure.
Yeah.
it
Just-
came up pretty fast whenever I
Yeah.
like was choosing my topic.
I gotta say, there's no place like
There you go.
London. And then
I've actually never seen that.
So one thing that was weird that I feel like would have been a like red flag for me was how she was telling the people that she was gonna kill a lie. Like the second one? She told her to write describing her trip before she killed her,
Yeah,
and I'd be like,
crazy.
why?
So,
Yeah.
so like, again, I put a lot of effort in the beginning of that story, and I didn't have enough
I'm not-
time. No,
yeah.
I'm just saying, I would have put a lot more detail into her actual life.
That will go true for everyone's stories tonight because
Yeah.
these are much more nuanced than we could ever
Yeah.
provide. I can almost guarantee that each one of our stories has a podcast, documentary,
Yeah.
TV show
Yeah, no,
dedicated to it.
you can do
know?
a whole series of
Exactly.
podcasts over
That's what I'm
her.
saying.
It's
That's
crazy, but no, like I said, she was very, very trusted and liked.
Yeah.
And these were her friends, like
Yes.
her, like
Fuck,
the people that came to the shop every day. So they had no clue, and so obviously the rest of the people who knew that woman, they
Yeah.
knew that. Oh yeah, she's been looking for a husband all her life, like, and of course,
and
oh
you're her
nice,
friend, of
nice
course,
old
yeah.
Leonardo's gonna set her up. Hell yeah, boom, bing bang.
Yeah.
Let's get her shipped off.
Bing bang, let's send her off.
And then same thing for the second woman.
Damn. Oh, and then the last one was, I might be dumb for saying this, but I didn't know soap was made with fat.
It's not always. It could be
Yeah.
made with milk. You can use gelatin of some
So
way.
that's not a thing anymore.
It probably
It is for like organic
Dude,
stuff.
now
Yeah.
that I think about
Like,
it, why did I say
probably
that?
like-
Because freaking Fight Club.
like goat,
yeah.
like goat fat.
They
I'm
literally
sure.
Goat
robbed
milk is
the
like the
fat.
most
Goat milk,
popular.
yeah.
Like whenever you're making soap at home
Yeah.
on your own, it's goat milk is like the most popular.
Okay,
thing.
it makes sense though because
Or like
I mean
sheep's
fat
milk.
is in milk,
Yeah.
so that makes sense. Okay.
The other pop culture reference that I wrote, which is pop culture in quotations, is the Cask of Amontillado, which is Edgar Allan Poe's story.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you're familiar with it or if you are.
I
but
mean,
I just know the
I'm
name.
familiar with it.
the story.
I can't recite it though.
I couldn't recite it either. I don't remember the characters' names or anything. But basically, the gist is one character doesn't like the other character, so he drugs him with wine, takes him down into the casks, into the where all the skulls and everything are, and he buries him in a wall behind a wall.
Such a fuck twist.
There's echoes of that with drugging.
Yeah, I think
or, like, spiking.
I think drugging of wine was pretty
Yeah.
popular.
It
back
might have
then.
been, yeah. And
Because I
It's-
mean,
it's
everyone
very
drank wine. People in Italy
Yes.
still drink wine.
And then-
in fact, the person who was telling the story on the video I watched, her father is Italian, and she was like asking him about all these towns, and he
okay.
was like, "Oh yeah, this type of wine
yeah.
over here, and this type of wine over
really?
here."
and then on top of that,
It's nothing but wine.
traditionally poison has been known as a woman's killer. Like
Yeah.
it's so like when,
It's like a
that's-
witchy
yeah.
thing to do.
Or usually it's not the quote unquote manly like way to take your enemy
Yeah.
out or whatever. So
She did
women
both.
would do it. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like Cask of Amontillado was like no one suspected him because he was a man. And he,
yeah,
totally
totally.
did that.
That makes
And
sense.
I feel like her drugging them was a means of her not wanting them to like feel the full like
Yeah.
force of her
She was-
being a terrible like thing.
I don't want to say remorseful, but
you could be
cautious.
a murderer and have remorse.
yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I don't know if she felt it completely because she still did it.
Yeah,
True. That's
She
very
she
true.
said she had stated that it took her a while to get over the
Hmm.
first killing, but as soon as she realized that, oh, I'm doing this for Giuseppe,
Yeah,
and it just clicked, and she was like, I got to do
And
this.
I mean, that's kind of like the whole aspect of the villain complex in the first place. Most
Yeah.
villains think that they're doing the greater good.
Yes.
Right.
So, like, in her mind, she was doing the greater good, but
yeah.
It's
Which
not.
and then this goes back to my gripe about like justifying what they did is because how much of it is actually truly them believing it, and how much of it is them knowing that they did something bad and I need to cover up now.
Right.
Like I need to make it look
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because it happens so often.
because you can't read her mind, she could
Exactly,
have
yeah,
easily
you
just
don't know.
been like,
And-
like liking
and
that
literally
and
she
getting off on it.
covered up all of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because she spent probably 20 to 30 years learning how to clean, how to
Yeah.
do all that.
Dude, that episode had all kinds of shit. That was crazy.
That story. She felt like an episode. That was
Right.
one story.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's story.
We still got
God.
two more stories.
I have one more
Christ.
little thing I want to end on with that is the hatred makes the spell stronger.
Yeah.
Like that idea, that concept is crazy. That,
Yeah.
Can we write a song about that?
And not even stronger, just making it work. That was her idea.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like
Just the more
the reason that
passion
the
that's in
first
it.
two didn't work was because she didn't have any hatred towards these women.
That's crazy.
Kind of reminds me of the Sith. Like, passion is like the
Yeah.
way to power.
Well,
essentially.
and ultimately she was wrong because I didn't include this, but Giuseppe did go into battle, and he was most likely stationed in North Africa at the North African campaign, and the person did research on trying to find Giuseppe Cianciullo. And could not find that name at all. So he
you-
either died or he changed his name.
Do you remember if this was after or before her death?
This was during, like she was still alive.
Okay, so as long as she
Like,
knew.
like all the records, like that she was looking up. Well, okay, so no. As soon as she went to jail,
yeah.
she never saw Giuseppe again.
Okay.
And never
So-
heard.
okay,
never
so
heard.
She doesn't know.
She
never knew.
She never
Okay.
knew.
he probably wiped his
the-
hands over and was just like.
But historians and people who've done research about her and her family could never find Giuseppe's name anywhere.
Okay.
So he either
records
died
anywhere.
or he changed his name, which changing your name during war isn't really a thing.
Well, that and whenever you get to my story, this is 2006, and this dude used so many aliases.
Yeah.
Like you can just do
Like,
it.
he
most
was-
people are like, "Oh, that's your name. All right, I'll roll with that forever." Cool.
Even
thanks.
government officials.
We're
yeah.
Oh my god.
we're assuming Giuseppe died.
Okay.
So
All right.
it never worked.
We good? Are we ready to
good.
go
I'm-
to the
I'm
next
ready to
story?
transition.
All right, you have the boner, so that means I'm next.
I love that audio people. They have no
Yeah,
idea.
they're like,
"What?
You got a boner? What is happening? Okay, so my story is about a stretch of the Interstate 20 in between Odessa and Fort Worth. There were 3 rest stops on that little stretch. It's about a 5-hour stretch. And if those of you who don't know, rest stops are basically, I don't know if they have rest stops in other states. They do? Okay.
Oh, in other states?
They almost have to because 18-wheelers travel throughout the state.
So basically, what a rest stop
country.
is, it's different from a truck stop. Essentially, a truck stop is where like
Convenience
truckers,
store.
can go in, buy food,
They
and
got
all that kind of stuff.
showers and all
Yeah.
that.
And
Rest
a
stops are just
is literally what it's
where
for.
you stop and rest.
Yeah, and so truckers will usually use that as a means to be able to stop and get a couple hours of sleep, because you can stay there for up to 8 hours apparently. Yeah, and so my person that I did the story on, he basically used those rest stops as a means to be able to murder people.
nice.
So this is my story, the rest stop boogeyman of West Texas. Have you ever driven long distances before? If you drive 18-wheelers, then I'm sure you have. My name is Jonathan. I've been driving 18-wheelers for about 30 years now. A little fun fact, we see random and sometimes strange shit out on the road. From your occasional lot lizards to hitchhikers trying to get a ride, weird-looking animals in the backside of a thunderstorm. In my 30 years, I've seen plenty of those and everything in between. Last night, though, I experienced some shit that I just can't wrap my head around. I was taking Interstate 20 through West Texas. I was coming from New Mexico and heading to Fort Worth. I've been driving for hours, and my pickup was late, so it was around 2 a.m. when I pulled up to a rest stop. I just couldn't go any longer, and I figured I'd get a few hours of rest before heading out again. I was only 3 or so hours away from Fort Worth, so I had some time to kill anyways. Okay, everybody, let's pause real fast. Don't worry, we'll get back to Jonathan's story shortly. I just need to give you a little history lesson about the stretch of highway he experienced whatever he experienced on. Back in the spring of '93, this stretch of highway experienced some dark times. You see, the 3 rest stops along Highway 20 in between Odessa and Fort Worth were the site of over 10 murders, all done by one man. His name was Richard Douglas White, but most people know him as the rest stop boogeyman of West Texas. Not much is known as to why Richard did what he did. The only reason we know he is the culprit is because he wrote a letter to his brother stating he needed help mentally and confessing to killing all of these people. His brother, knowing he was not all right in the head, took it as just a cry for attention. It was not a cry for attention. So the killing scenario would go down like this. Richard would stalk the 3 rest stops. He would wait for there to be either only one car or 18-wheeler parked in the dead of night. Then he would pull in and park close to the exit to the rest stop. Walk up to the vehicle of the person he was watching, tap on the window until the driver who was trying to sleep wakes up. He would usually apologize while they were coming to and state that he just had a flat tire, wasn't strong enough to get the nuts loose, and needed help. Probably going as far as to ask if they had extra tools and, whatnot. I don't know about you, but when I'm woken up suddenly, I usually am not all there. Very groggy, having trouble focusing on my surroundings. Richard used this to his advantage. As the sleeping motorist proceeded to open the door and get out to help, that's when he would strike, using a large, bladed, sharp Bowie knife to slit the throat of his victim. He then would watch them die just standing there silently as they gurgled and bled out, get back in his vehicle and drive away. After 2 or 3 deaths, the authorities started to realize this was more than random killings. Every death was a slit throat. Every death happened in close proximity. For some reason, though, they never caught him in the act. He even got away with murder with an officer posted at the rest stop that he killed somebody at. You see, Richard just didn't look the part of a serial killer. Mustache, glasses, wore the latest nice clothes. He drove a nice car. He just didn't fit what people thought the MO was at that time. Plus, no one ever saw him do anything suspicious. He was so perfect at fading into the surroundings and going unnoticed. Also, he always seemed to perfectly space out killings. Basically, when the hype would die down, he would go again. He was patient. After the death of his 10th victim, though, Richard got excited. He decided he wasn't going to wait long to get to 11. Scoping out the rest stop, he realized the authorities were more focused on the other 2 stops, the ones on each end. Possibly since the second one was in the middle, it seemed less likely for someone to get a kill and make an escape flying past the other 2, where the cops were hanging out at. Perfect, Richard thought, I bet. It was around 4 a.m. when he made his move. A truck pulled in roughly 45 minutes earlier. The guy got out, went to the restroom, rubbed his eyes, and yawned on his way back to the truck, and didn't start it back up after 10 minutes. Richard knew he was going to sleep there for a few hours. So he played as usual. Walked up to the truck, tapped on the window, as the driver woke up and noticed him, though. You see, Richard didn't wait long enough for the hype to die down after his last killing. All of the drivers on Interstate 20 were on full alert. A lot of them had started carrying protection with them if they had to take that route. This driver was one of the extra precautious. Richard said his lines perfectly, was as convincing as ever, but his next potential victim was ready to fight back. As he opened his door to step out to help, Mr. White pulled his hand back, eager to watch the blood pour from this man's throat. The driver saw what was happening, pulled out a gun, and shot Richard twice in center mass. He stood over Richard as he bled out, just like Richard did to all of his victims. By the time authorities arrived, Richard White was pronounced dead at the scene. After seeing Richard on the news, his brother immediately rushed to the police with his letter. The rest stop boogeyman was dead, but that isn't the end of his story, I think. Back to Mr. Jonathan. This is Mr. Jonathan's story now. I decided to pull into the second rest stop I saw. It was quiet, took a piss, felt like I was being watched. Grabbed a snack out of the vending machine and made it back to my truck. Got in and almost left. The atmosphere felt thick and uncomfortable. I just chalked it up to being so tired. Decided I'll catch a few hours and be on my way quick. I was sleeping hard. Then in my dreams, I heard tap, tap, tap. Apology, sir. Tap, tap, tap. The voice sounded muffled, but right outside my truck. Tap, tap, tap. Could you give me a hand? I got a flat. I was awake now, but I didn't move just yet. Then another tap, tap, tap. Sir, the voice said. And then bang, bang. The sound was so loud I thought it was a gunshot. I jolted up, started my truck, and tore out of that rest stop. Never looked back. Just the way my body screamed that we were in a bad place, and the noises, I don't know, man. I just have trouble shaking the feeling whenever I think about it.
Jeez.
That was wild. That's crazy. And that was all, can you give me a year again?
93.
93.
So, did you guys believe that that was a real true story?
100%.
I wrote that.
Ah, you bitch.
All of that.
Wow,
I made
was
it all
great.
up.
You should have never told us. You should have never told me because I would have been thinking about it.
No, you remember you said not to say before, but tell you after, and that's what I did.
Oh,
No,
well,
but we got a
now-
show in Midland.
I know. Oh, I
You
didn't
would've
think
been-
about that. I could have fucking
God,
fucked with you
Josh.
guys. Oh.
I even wrote down things. So the things I wrote down were fingerprints tapping. I was like, well, the dude tapped on the window. How did they not just like canvas get
No,
fingerprints off the window?
I don't think it. I see that. Okay, that was the thing that I left out. I was picturing him
like-
using the knife, like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So you know what's fucked up?
What?
There's a lot of detail that Josh wrote is the same shit that your dude did.
How do you mean?
Like avoiding like shit at the right time, like not
yeah,
being
like,
caught and
not being suspicious and all of that stuff.
Well, we'll get into mine. We'll get into mine because it's a lot of it was, I'm going to say, luck and a lot of it was luck, and up until he got.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier
think
today.
that-
He's just the most lucky serial killer.
Yeah.
I think that like pertains to a lot of like people that do these things. Is like it's really just
The good ones never got caught.
yeah.
or never.
That's true.
That's true.
There's the show Mindhunter,
Yeah.
where they are talking to Ed Kemper, and he says something along the lines of like why do people keep doing this? This is the investigator. Why do they keep doing it? How can we catch them? What can we do to like canvas areas that this could happen? And he's like, well, you're not going to ever catch them because the good ones don't leave evidence.
Oh, that's so
You know?
gnarly, dude.
So the other thing I wrote was I just wrote Ted Bundy, because I'm assuming you related that to him about like dressing real nice and fly, and like he's just
Yeah,
you know,
like being the good-looking dude.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that makes sense.
Okay, I
now.
will say though that the way I pictured how he looked was, you remember the brother in Napoleon Dynamite?
Yes.
Like, I'm talking to girls on the internet.
God.
Yeah.
That's what I pictured. Like, think about that guy. If that guy walked up to your vehicle and was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Hey, I can't get
There's
the
no
nuts,"
way.
like I'd be like, "Ah, cool, man. Like, no worries."
I've
Like,
talked to Kolby about this. I have a thing where like, I'm gonna say it, where like if somebody new will like walk in the room, I'll like gauge it. I'll be like, if I needed to fight this person, I could do it. Like if I needed,
Gonna take him?
like
Makes
yeah,
sense.
if
Yeah,
I needed
I
to
could
like
probably take
defend
him.
myself, I could probably.
it's
do it.
it's survival instinct. It's just like whenever you go into like a restaurant
But
and you're
I
like, "Where's
actively
the?"
think about it.
You know, it only takes a tenth of a second for you to judge a person.
Yeah. Oh, I judge people constantly all
Yeah.
day. The last thing I wrote was bang bang, ghost gunshots.
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah,
the
that's
reason?
exact-
That's
I'm glad that you
was
caught
very
that.
cool.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes, I
'Cause-
fucking love it, dude.
Bang.
Because did you catch it?
Because it was three
Okay.
taps,
Three
but
taps
then
on
the
the
bang
window.
bang was the two shots to the center mass that he
Yeah.
heard that shot him up, and he was like, "Fuck that,"
Yeah,
and I'm out.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because that was very well done.
Thank you.
That was a good story.
Thank you. Yay.
Wow.
What just happened?
I took a sip of my drink.
All right, so now
Okay.
it's on to you. Do you want to, before you finish your story or start your story, you want to pass the boner on to me? Because
Yeah,
I
I'll
really
pass it.
want a boner. Give me that boner. Oh,
Here.
yeah.
There you go.
Thank you for giving me a boner, Caleb. The boner.
I don't
That's what
think we'll
should
ever
say.
explain this to audio listeners. So we do have a
Twitch is gonna ban us for saying boner so many times.
Canceled.
we got a little bit of intro. Let's see here. I got our show intro pulled up. So, the rail car killer, the railway killer, Angel Maturino Resendez, most famously known as the railroad killer.
Oh, man.
Now, his name is actually pronounced Angel, but I'm going to be calling him Angel just because it's easier for me
Yeah.
to remember. So, Angel Resendez was sentenced to death by lethal injection for the murder and robbery of Claudia Benton. But he will have led a trail of bloodshed for many years prior to this, killing a suspected 23 across the southern United States and Mexico during the late 80s and 90s.
Great fucking spoiler.
This is a well-known My bad. We'll briefly cover his early life, the timeline of his murders, capture, conviction, and wrap up with his execution. In an attempt to keep the atmosphere lighter than what the story truly is, and to give a little bit of a feel of what was going on in the world, I'll be sprinkling in pop culture references throughout the timeline.
Nice.
This would also be a good time to say that there are a few possible triggering details in the story ahead, graphic murders and sexual assault included. With that addressed, we're ready for the tragic, unnecessary, and gruesome story of the railroad killer.
I like that.
Born August 1st, 1959 in Puebla, Mexico. Almost immediately, he endures severe head trauma. Whether this is true or not is up for debate. His mother said this while he was on trial, pleading for reason of insanity. Translated from Spanish to English, she said, Angel was born, he did hit himself on his head, he was very purple.
Oh, my gosh.
His mother would also state that in that same interview, when Angel was only 3 years old, she was attacked and Angel witnessed it. A man came out with a machete, and I still carry the scars. Angel was crying a lot. He saw my mother was taking the man off of me, and he ran away. So very, very early on into his life, not only has he experienced severe head trauma, as well as witnessing an attack on his own mother, but both his mother and father would regularly abuse him. At the age of 6, he would be sent off for no apparent reason to live with his uncle. His uncle would rape him, as well as being sexually assaulted by a local pedophile. Around 11 years old, Angel would run away from home, live on the streets, and is said to have acquired a drug addiction, glue sniffing was reportedly the most often drug that he would choose. Maybe because age and ease of use. Mm-hmm. And around this time, he was reportedly attacked by a gang of kids with bricks, left on the side of the road bleeding from his mouth and ears.
Jesus.
Yet another severe head trauma incident. He's now 16 years old, and he tries to enter Texas for the first time. He will be deported. This would be the start of a long track record with the U.S. law enforcement, including multiple accounts of illegal immigration, as well as falsifying citizenship, false aliases, fake passports, and so many other things, from Grand Theft Auto, later on leading into murder. All of this, most notably, a 20-year sentence for burglary, vehicle theft, and aggravated assault on a man with a knife in Florida. He would get an early parole, sent back to Mexico. While in prison, he would say he was once again sexually assaulted by other inmates. There are multiple podcasts, articles, documentaries about all of this if you so choose to listen to the full details of his early life, but as I already mentioned, we are only going over it briefly, and now we're going to move on into the timeline of his known and claimed murders. 1986. Top Gun is in the theaters. Debut of the Oprah Winfrey Show, The Phantom of the Opera, the Space Shuttle Challenger explodes. Argentina defeats West Germany in the World Cup 3-2.
What a time.
And Angel Resendez kills his first documented victims.
Oh, no.
Just east of San Antonio in Bexar County, an unidentified homeless woman was shot 4 times with a .38 caliber weapon. Her body dumped in an abandoned farmhouse. Resendez would state that he met the woman at a homeless shelter and that they would take a motorcycle trip together, and that he brought his gun along with them to have target practice.
What the fuck?
Not as so what you're immediately thinking is he's target practicing on her.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a fun event.
Oh,
they were going to
okay.
be shooting together.
It's like, damn.
For whatever reason, and you'll see why later, I don't buy this at all. He says that he killed the woman for disrespecting him. I doubt she did anything at all that was actually disrespectful. Soon after killing the woman, he would find and shoot and kill her boyfriend, dump his body in a creek somewhere between San Antonio and Uvalde. He would say he killed the man because he was involved in black magic, and the man's body was never found, and the only things known about him is what Resendez told the authorities. Nothing else about him.
And he was the boyfriend was also homeless, I'm guessing?
I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
It wasn't stated because he was never found. We don't know who it was. We only know that Resendez said that he did it.
That's crazy, dude.
Now, 1991, Terminator 2, Metallica's Black Album. Michael Jordan wins his first of 6 consecutive NBA
Why you
championships.
gotta give us good shit?
And 22-year-old Michael White was found in the front yard of an abandoned downtown house, bludgeoned to death with a brick, assumed to be found nearby. Resendez would draw a map of the crime scene and said that he killed White because he thought he was homosexual.
Oh,
Damn.
man, dude.
Fucking, he's a scumbag.
Yeah.
1997, The Titanic, Jurassic Park, Men in Black, and then Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is published. And Resendez would claim his 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th victim this year.
Oh, shit.
March 23rd, 1997, in Florida, Jesse Howell, 19, and his fiancée, Wendy Von Heuben, 16. While walking along a railroad track, Resendez would stalk these two, picking up an air hose coupling he found on the ground and beat Jesse to death and leave his body on the tracks. Wendy was then raped and strangled both manually and with duct tape, and her body would be found in a shallow grave near Ocala. Resendez would get around mainly by rail car or his victims' vehicles, as we'll see later. Assuming he took rail car across the country, he would end up in Colton, California. And in July of 1997, an unidentified transient was beaten to death with a piece of plywood in a rail yard. Resendez was not officially charged, but was the prime suspect in this case. His modus operandi, or MO, was always being near railways, and the weapons of opportunity being his main device. Mm-hmm. His final murder of 97 would be that of a University of Kentucky student, Christopher Meyer, on August 29th in Lexington. This would be the most well-documented crime because this would be the one and only time one of the victims lived.
Oh.
Chris, accompanied by his girlfriend, Holly Dunn Pendleton were walking back from a party alongside some railroad tracks when Resendez would attack them, brandishing some sort of sharp object, an ice pick or a screwdriver. Chris and Holly would offer money and whatever else they thought he might want, as they thought it was a robbery. Resendez would not accept. Instead, he would attack viciously. He would bind and gag both of them, then proceed to beat Chris over the head with some sort of large object. Holly would say that she saw Resendez struggle to pick up and walk with a large rock in his arms, proceed to stand over Chris, and drop the 52-pound rock on his head. Only 2 to 3 feet away, Holly laid and watched helplessly as the life left his body, hearing blood gurgling from her boyfriend's skull, and her attacker say, "He's gone, don't worry about him." Resendez would not only stop there, but he would attack Holly, attempting to rape her. She then began kicking, screaming, fighting ferociously when he stabbed her in the neck, and would whisper in her ear, "Look how easily I could kill you."
Shit, dude.
From then on, Holly would not fight back. She said she does not remember much actually happening, as she was floating above her own body as she was raped, kind of like an out-of-body experience. The last thing she remembers is a ring and earring being removed from her person and then repeatedly being beat with a wood board to her face and the back of her head. Assuming she was dead, Resendez fled the scene, and a little while later, Holly would stumble her way about 200 yards to a nearby home where she would receive some help.
She got up?
Holly Pendleton is an outstanding woman,
Yeah.
testifying at the trial as well as being a book writer and being a, quote, survivor, motivator, and tribute to the human spirit. Holly's work includes being the spokesperson of Holly's House, a local sexual abuse and domestic violence advocacy center where she co-founded in her hometown of Evansville, Indiana. Please, if you have time, listen to her story or check out her multiple accolades that she has. We'll link it later on.
Oh, yeah.
Now, 1998. Let me to fix this camera real quick. Like I said, this one's rough. There's a lot going on. So we move to 1998. Saving Private Ryan, Frozen by Madonna, and Apple launches the iMac.
I like how you just say Frozen by Madonna.
People might not know that.
I know.
The movie was way later. October 4th, we would begin to see his most well-known MO, that being randomly picked near railroad tracks, weapons of opportunity, and after the murders, he would stay in the houses, eating meals, stealing valuables, thought to be his trophies, and displaying the ID cards next to the meals that he ate.
What?
In the victim's home.
Jeez.
Almost as if he was studying the life that he had just taken, probably lying a few feet away from where he was.
Oh, man, that's brutal.
87-year-old Leafy Mason was found beaten to death in her home in Hughes Spring, Texas. Killed with an antique iron she had, and discovered by a neighbor who was supposed to give her a ride to visit her sister, Birdie, which I'm going to take a moment. I love the names. Leafy and Birdie.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Birdie especially. I really like that. It's cute.
Leafy was said to be asleep in her bed when Resendez snuck in through an unlocked window, later saying he picked the house because it, quote, radiated evil. She was an outgoing spirit, feisty, strong-willed, and thoughtful. She shared pies with the neighbors very often and very likely woke up to fight her attacker that night.
Fucking sweet soul, dude.
After killing, he would eat her food, rummage through her belongings, and leave. And on his way to Florida, Resendez would get... He was meant to be on his way to Florida. Resendez then gets on the wrong train and ends up in Carl, Georgia.
Oh, shit.
December 11th. That doesn't stop him. December 11th, 1998, Resendez stalks the neighborhood near the train where he was, finding 81-year-old Fanny Byers working in her front yard. After sneaking into her home while she was working, he finds a tire rim and waits on her to enter, killing her with a single blow to the head. Later found by a neighbor when they were worried that Fanny was not answering the door. No evidence would lead the investigators to put Resendez at this crime, but later on he would provide key evidence which would lead the investigators to drop charges on a couple that they did suspect and fully on the railroad killer. Following this, he would travel southwest, ending up back in Texas. Now on to his 10th victim. December 17th, 1998, only 6 days after his last murder, is a pivotal point in our story's timeline. Claudia Benton, a 39-year-old pediatric neurologist at the Baylor College of Medicine, was in her home alone as her husband and 2 twin daughters had just left for Arizona. The house was located near the Union Pacific Railroad tracks in West University Place, Texas. Resendez would prowl Claudia's house, watching her through windows until she went to bed around 10 p.m. He would then sneak in, pick up a statue that was claimed to be demonic, and make his way to Claudia's bedroom. After snooping around the house on his way to her bedroom, he finds medical journals because, she's a doctor.
Yeah.
And other publications that led him to believe in his idiotic brain that she was practicing experiments on fetuses and performing illegal abortions. More justification for whatever reason that he needs to kill this person. Once again, he makes it into the bedroom and he attacks her in her sleep, but Claudia would fight back. Investigators would make it sound like she did a hell of a job at it too, fighting off this real-life monster, very nearly getting away, but was not successful.
Damn it.
Claudia Benton was raped, stabbed 3 times in her hands and her back with a kitchen knife, and fatally bludgeoned to death after being struck 19 times with that 2-foot-tall bronze statue that he picked up when he entered the house.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And if y'all haven't picked up, Resendez has some sort of holier-than-thou complex. Somehow he assumes things of people and proceeds to murder, rape, and torment them as if what he's doing is God's work, as he would later claim. Claudia would be found in her home, her head partially covered in a plastic bag and one of her arms broken, several bones in her face completely shattered. Resendez then destroyed her home, breaking art on the wall, smashing vases, tearing the whole house apart, and stealing things like a guitar, a banjo, a stereo, and jewelry. From there, he would make some snacks with her food and eat it in her house, once again looking at the ID card displayed next to the half-eaten food that he left out. He would then steal Claudia's red Jeep Cherokee, ripping off the steering column and hot wiring it. Police came to the home and would investigate thoroughly, finding fingerprints everywhere. Those fingerprints matching an abandoned red Jeep Cherokee that they found in San Antonio the next day. Located in a motel parking lot, the abandoned Jeep Cherokee was only a few hundred feet from the railroad tracks, which we can assume he just ditched the vehicle, got on the tracks, moved on to the next place. December 26th, a match in the public... this one's rough. December 26th, there is a match in the Texas Department of Public Safety's Automated Fingerprint Identification System, Texas AFIS. Basically, where your fingerprints go is called AFIS. This is Texas's version. And it is linked to a Carlos Cluthia Rodriguez, arrested in Carson County, Texas, 1993, one of Resendez's aliases. So they don't link him, they see somebody else's fingerprints, and they think that they're going for a Carlos Cluthia Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Completely made up name.
Oh my gosh.
Local authorities regarding their respective crimes start to put these prints into other databases, searching for matches with other possible aliases. California gets a hit, and then right after, the FBI takes notice, and they take the prints and put them into their AFIS database, where they see the long, long rap sheet of Resendez. Authorities start to devise a plan to put Angel under arrest. They start by moving forward by linking him to a burglary rather than murder, all in hopes that once they had him, there was no way for him to weasel out, and then from there they can proceed on with murder charges. A warrant for burglary was soon issued. At this time, Resendez, back in Mexico with his wife. Somehow this man has a whole separate life in Mexico, and he is married and soon to become a father.
It's just on business.
His wife becomes pregnant. Apparently, from most reports, he was a very present, caring, and loving father, according to his wife and other family members.
It's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, and we see that with a lot of serial killers, is that somehow
It's
they're
true.
able to just to divide that, which something broken in you to be able to do that. Now, making his way past the border once again, he ends up in Texas. Weimar, Texas. 1999. The Phantom Menace.
Oh, I love that movie.
The Matrix. Slipknot's self-titled. Gran Turismo 2. Donkey Kong 64.
Why did you pick all of the great things of that?
Great fucking year.
May 2nd, Sunday service in the morning at a church in Weimar. They're all waiting on their pastor to arrive with no avail. People become worried and make their way over to the parsonage to check on Norman Skip Cernick and his wife Karen Cernick, both found dead in their home. Resendez, once again, choosing a home at random very near the railroad tracks the moment that he gets off the train, fixating this time on the Cernick's parsonage. And a parsonage would be a small house located on the church premises.
Oh, okay. I was actually just wondering.
It's usually where the pastor and
okay.
family live. Skip, this is his nickname. His first name is Norman, but we'll call him Skip for the majority. Skip was said to be a very unconventional pastor, and the town loved him. He would make church fun, singing and making jokes during the sermons and being great with kids. Skip's father was quoted as talking to his son about loving Weimar, saying that his son said that he loved the town and loved the church and the people in it. Damn. Skip truly believed that this was where he was meant to be. Fuck, this is hitting me right now.
I know, it's like, ugh.
Because it hits so close to home, dude.
Yeah.
He and his wife Karen, who was a biochemist when they met, were called compassionate above all else. And then residents would also say that Karen was his light. Everything seemed to be going great until they crossed paths with a flesh and blood demon. On his way to the parsonage, Resendez would pick up a sledgehammer that he found nearby, most likely in the garage of the parsonage, sneak into the home, and he would attack them viciously, crushing their heads with this sledgehammer while they slept. Blood everywhere, and the murder weapon still leaning up against the wall when the police arrive. Police also find that Karen was sexually assaulted post-mortem this time, and yet again a ransacked house, half-eaten food, and the ID cards placed in full view. The bodies were covered haphazardly in blankets, and their vehicles stolen. Resendez would also steal a VCR and a video camera. Very soon, this double homicide would be connected to Claudia Benton's murder, the one that they got the fingerprints from, after identical prints were found in the abandoned vehicle owned by the Cernicks in San Antonio.
He keeps going back to San Antonio.
Yeah, so he'll hit San Antonio. I'm assuming that there's a large railway system there.
Probably.
I'm not positive, but just kind of, we've passed through and everything. It's pretty industrial.
Yeah.
Now, this is where we're going to take a small tangent away from the timeline to talk about this case. While in Weimar, Resendez went by another alias that everyone knew him by, Raphael. Co-worker's account. Kolby and I work in Weimar 5 days out of the week. We work with people that remember the day that this happened and the panic in town that happened following.
Vividly.
One of our friends and co-workers, Marcus, was around 9 or 10 and a member of this church, the United Church of Christ, where Norman and Karen belonged.
He wasn't a member, but he went to it.
Oh, is there a difference?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, my bad.
Well, he went to multiple churches. He just happened to go there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So, okay. Well, he was a frequenter of this church.
Yeah, he'd been there a couple times.
Marcus remembers that he was not there that the day the bodies were found, but immediately heard from others in the town. He recalls how people were not only scared of what was going on, but also almost immediately blaming others in town because they had not heard of any other murders and they were just blaming other criminals in the area. The police at the time had not made public connections to other murderers and possible serial killers on the loose. Marcus was telling us stories about how he remembers seeing this man's face plastered on news, all over the news later in that same year, and how he could recall seeing someone similar to that guy mowing yards around town. Marcus even had a story of him and his friends riding around town on bikes, hitting an area with an abandoned trailer house, known at the time for being a hotspot for the homeless and transients. Marcus would say he remembers seeing a short Mexican man peek through the window and quickly pull back while they rode their bikes. Whether that was him or not, we don't know. But
You want me to add I'll add it at the end.
we have a good amount more.
Yeah.
Another coworker, Tresman, who was around 8 or 9 when this happened, talked about how even though that this was tragic, it brought a lot of people to some kind of edge and strangely working together in a different way, because Weimar is kind of divided in a little bit racially.
Yeah,
racially
it's an older
divided.
town, I get it.
So This is he said he was surprised to see people pull up to railway crossings, 5 or 6 cars deep, open up the doors of their vehicle, and they would just sit there looking, waiting around for anyone walking on the railroad, ready to capture or kill this man if they needed to.
No shit.
That prize money.
If needed.
Mob, dude.
Yeah. And this was all in hopes for the reward money that would ensue after his name hit the public eye. Both Marcus and Tresman say that the small town was littered with media for weeks following the murders. Tresman remembers hearing about 4 or 5 Mexican men getting held down at gunpoint or just held up it's some way being captured by citizens because they thought this could be the man in the news.
Damn.
Another coworker, Joshua, not you,
I was like, me?
had one story that he heard from a family friend where they saw a man jump through their fence, over their fence, and run through their backyard. They lived near the tracks. The people of Weimar were ready for Raphael, as they knew him, to show his face again so they could get some justice, money, or both. The mayor of the town would say that local gun stores sold out of all handguns and citizens would regularly patrol railroads. I even asked my dad just before we sat down to do this what he remembers. Since he owned 2 gas stations at the time, he would hear people talk about this all the time in '99 and in the early 2000s.
Dude, that's crazy.
People claiming that they knew him or saw him, small town gossip kind of things. But all those little gossip things and this story lingers over 20 years later because we're talking about it tonight.
Right.
Now, back to our timeline.
Oh boy.
Resendez would steal the vehicle of the previous victim and end up back in San Antonio, where he would then take another rail car to his next location, June 4th, 1999, in Houston. A school teacher, bludgeoned to death with a gardening pickaxe in her apartment. Naomi Dominguez. A school teacher at Houston ISD, Benjamin Franklin Elementary. Once again, the killer would rummage through the house, eat food, display the ID, but this time, for the first time, take the murder weapon, followed by stealing the victim's vehicle and fleeing again west. Now, this is when we make our way back to our location again. Josephine Konvinka of Dubina, which is very, very close to Weimar, in between Weimar and Schulenburg.
Mm-hmm.
Josephine was found with the same pickaxe that had killed Naomi buried in her head. Killed in her rural home, the crime scene was only 3.5 miles from the Cernik slayings. In a back room, the police found a calling card, this time, for the first time. More so than the ID cards.
He's progressing.
Of course, we see the eaten food, we see the destroyed house, and the displayed IDs. But this time, while looking for things to steal, Resendez finds a toy train set and carefully sets it up on a bed alongside a piece of article with his crime in the newspaper.
Bro, that's creepy.
Making sure to let the police know that he knew who they were talking about.
Oh, that gave me goosebumps, dude. Oh.
So this is also around the time that there were a lot of sightings of a shorter Mexican man wearing an old-timey conductor's uniform, walking around railroad tracks.
Are you serious?
A white undershirt with a dark-colored blazer, button-down jacket, and matching slacks. A gold pocket watch and a hat that read conductor, written in gold lettering. Going as far to let his mustache grow out to fit that stereotypical train conductor look. What I thought of was Polar Express conductor.
Oh, yeah.
When he was spotted, he would immediately take off, not to be seen again. Resendez would claim that he tried the outfit out to build the persona of the railroad killer. He would then drive with the vehicle belonging to Naomi down to Del Rio, where he would abandon it and catch a train back to Mexico for a short time. And if you still believe that this man was running around in an old conductor's uniform,
Okay,
I'm
fuck
sorry.
you. Fuck you. I knew.
I'm sorry.
You fucking bit. Was the train real?
Yes.
Okay.
The train was
So
real.
that was
the
a
scary
good segue.
I literally wrote down became a regular
You-
Batman villain from the Batman animated series. Like,
So- This episode has been very heavy, and I needed to lighten up for myself. I was literally writing this, and I was like, dude, I gotta like
You
do something.
asshole.
oh, thank you for that. That was good.
Final victims, 15 and 16. June 15th, 1999. The bodies of George Mober and his daughter Carolyn Frederick were found in the rural home of Illinois. Mober was tied to a chair and shot in the back of the head with his own shotgun that he kept in the home. Carolyn was sexually assaulted and struck repeatedly over and over with the butt of the same shotgun until it broke in two, and she was no longer alive. Then stealing Carolyn's truck and fleeing back to Mexico soon afterwards. In addition to the above crimes, San Antonio Police Detective George Sadler said that Resendez told him that he committed 2 more murders that he would take to his grave. Some authorities also believe that Resendez committed murders in Mexico, particularly Ciudad Juarez, where many bodies, mostly women, were found by railroad tracks.
Good job.
Now this will take us out of our timeline. Very briefly, as we've already spent too much time talking about this evil person, we'll talk about his arrest, trial, and execution. His capture. After FBI work with his half-sister, they are able to convince him, with the reward money and the ruthless bounty hunters hunting him down in Mexico, dead or alive, it would be better to turn himself in where he thought he would not get charged with the death penalty, and he agreed. He would peacefully meet Texas Rangers and Border Patrol on a small bridge in El Paso. They would hand off, read him his Miranda rights, and then they would fly him over to Houston where he would be tried and sentenced. Trial. During his interviews and trial, Resendez would make many claims of doing God's work, that people misunderstood him and that he was ridding the world of evil. God told him to. The devil took him over. Homes of victims radiated evil. Political issues between U.S. and Serbia was even in there, even going as far as to claiming that the government handled the Branch Davidians led by David Koresh in Waco very poorly.
What?
Caused him to lead murders, to go on to murder. Absolutely anything that this worthless excuse for life could say to try and pass the blame. Now we have a couple dates and a quick summary of the court proceedings. May 18th, 2000, a jury found Angel Resendez guilty of capital murder and he was sentenced to death. May 21st, 2003, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals affirmed the conviction and sentence. December 9th, 2003, Resendez filed a petition for writ of certiorari, I'm not going to get that one, with the U.S. Supreme Court. May 3rd, 2004, the U.S. Supreme Court denied that. Also on May 4th, 2004, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals denied Resendez's application for state habeas corpus relief. May 3rd, 2005, Resendez filed an application for federal habeas corpus relief in the U.S. District Court. September 7th, 2005, the U.S. District Court denied relief and entered final judgment. November 15th, 2005, Resendez filed a motion to reopen the time to file notice of appeal, or in the alternative, a request to extend the time of final appeal. June 7th, 2006, the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals denied Resendez's appeal. Now, say what you want about capital punishment, but I believe that people like Angel Resendez luck out when they get sentencing like this. He deserved much worse for what he did to each of those people. Resendez was the 13th murderer executed in Texas in 2006, the 24th murderer executed in the U.S. in 2006, the 368th murderer executed in Texas since 1976, and the 1,028th murderer executed in the U.S. since 1976. A few other facts. While the manhunt for Resendez was going on, there would be a $50,000 reward for information after he was placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. And just a few days after this $50,000 was announced, it would be raised to $125,000.
Damn.
This was the reward that everybody in Weimar was hearing about and seeing, and they wanted a piece of it.
Yeah.
Resendez's wife would say that he was a great family man and would return from working in the U.S. with lots of money and all sorts of gifts like jewelry, clothing, and other trinkets, possibly previously owned by Angel's victims. During trial, Resendez would try to claim that the arresting officer was lying under oath and try to plea insanity and multiple appeals, all which would fail. 2006, Revenge of the Sith. Justin Timberlake's Sexy Back releases. Saddam Hussein hanged for his crimes against humanity, and Houston celebrates DJ Screw Day for his local work in Houston music, and his most famous mixtape being called June 27th. June 27th being the same day that Resendez was executed.
Damn.
Texas Department of Criminal Justice inmate number 999356, male, Hispanic, black hair, brown eyes, 5'6", 190 pounds. Angel Maturino Resendez. On his way to the execution chamber, he would chant, "Lord, please forgive me," over and over as the hour of the planned execution approached. Angel, who claimed he was an avenging angel and that he could not be killed, visited with his 7-year-old daughter and his mother. This would be the last time that they see him alive. Moving forward, Resendez would decline a final meal, and his last words were, end quote, "I want to ask you if it's in your heart to forgive me. You don't have to. I know I allowed the devil to rule my life. I just ask you to forgive me, and I ask the Lord to forgive me for allowing the devil to deceive me. I want to thank God for having patience with me. I don't deserve to cause you pain. You do not deserve this. I deserve what I am getting." Before drawing his final breath, the killer, who claimed to be Jewish, prayed in Hebrew and Spanish. And at 46 years old, Angel Maturino Resendez was pronounced dead at 8:05. Among the people present in his execution, Claudia Benton's husband, George. George had some very important things to say about his wife's killer. Again, here we're going to quote, "People have to understand what evil really is. What was executed today may have looked like a man, walked and talked like a man, but what was contained inside that skin was not a human being. This is not human behavior, but something I can only say is evil contained in a human form. A creature without a soul, no conscience, no sense of remorse, no regard for the sanctity of human life." In addition to Benton, other victims' relatives were present to witness the execution. Joseph Konvinka's son, Karen Cernick's brother, Carolyn Frederick's son, and an Illinois man who was George Morber's grandson. An unidentified man and woman, 22-year-old Michael White, 19-year-old Jesse Howe, 16-year-old Wendy Von Huber, 54-year-old Robert Castro, 21-year-old Christopher Meyer, 87-year-old Leafy Mason, 81-year-old Fanny Byers, 39-year-old Claudia Benton, 46-year-old Norman Skip Cernick, and his 47-year-old wife Karen Cernick, 27-year-old Naomi Dominguez, 73-year-old Joseph Konvinka, 80-year-old George Morber, and his daughter, 52-year-old Carolyn Frederick. Possibly many more. This is fucking hitting me now. Whew. Possibly many more. What is happening to me?
Take your time.
Yeah, that's
buddy. It's all
ridiculous.
good.
I was not feeling this when I was writing it. Whew. Possibly many more that we could use new technology to link evidence to, but sadly, many will never find closure. We can only hope that knowing that this embodiment of pure evil is gone forever, and hopefully that brought some sort of solace to the families of the victims. Angel Maturino Resendez, the railroad killer.
Damn.
Fucking bravo, bro. That
a
was
struggle, dude.
dude. Yeah, like, man, that was nuts. I can't believe that that's real.
I know.
It's crazy.
It was Josephine.
Josephine.
Right? Okay.
I
Did I say
do.
Joseph?
Joseph a couple times.
Oh, my
I was
bad.
like, wait a minute.
Josephine Kaminka.
I will say that, I did want to ask. So there's documentaries on this.
There's multiple. The one that I watched the most was made by the FBI network.
Really?
Yeah.
I want to check that out. Like, was it on like Netflix?
It was on YouTube.
It was on
Yeah,
YouTube.
so you're free to watch, yeah. There's multiple on YouTube.
Dude, he was so inconsistent.
Yes, that
with
was the
his
scariest
reasoning.
thing for me.
Yeah.
Like so, God told him to do it, and the devil took him over.
Exactly.
That is fucking what?
Yeah, no, it's
crazy.
completely ridiculous, and he was so inconsistent with it, and it's ridiculous because again, he tried to just pass it on as whatever it was. He was
Yeah.
getting like saying that he thought the guy was gay. Kill
Yeah,
him.
like,
Well,
what?
what is that? Yeah,
Yeah.
and then trying to say that something radiated evil because he thought something was demonic. Like it made no sense at all, and it felt to me like he's trying to cover himself.
Yeah,
And then-
he was grasping at straws.
It feels like he created all of that at the end.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, because we only know of all this when he gets caught. Like he never like showed any like
Right.
reasoning at the murders, at the scenes. There
Yo,
was
so
one.
the train and the note
Yes.
or the newspaper.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awful.
That's
And
awful.
again, it's only because it was there in her house.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do it. Like, it
Like
was
he didn't
just-
bring a train set
It was
along.
most.
yeah.
So they
And-
said it was most likely her grandkids.
And that's crazy because like the hysteria around this area
Yeah.
during that time was nuts.
Yeah.
And to have him come back and like, oh, I couldn't imagine
Yeah.
living in that area.
Yeah, that area specifically, but
time.
it stretched out anywhere in Texas because
Yeah.
that was his main place.
And see, we're too young to remember.
I'm
any of
never
that.
going to be able to watch The Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith ever again.
Hopefully that lightened it up a little bit because like you saw how it affected me now. I knew
Yeah.
I was going to need it.
Yeah,
But,
dude,
like-
the train conductor outfit thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I literally wrote down he turned into a villain from the Batman animated series. That's
Oh.
what, and with a question mark.
that was me paying homage to Great Dan Cummins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with
there
all
you
his
go.
misdirections.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You should do that more often.
Also,
You should
I
do that
wanted to
more
point
often.
out. We'll point that out later. Actually, I said love how the local stuff was a couple of the last murders, like I think it was like the third and fourth from last.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, because it was the Cernix.
Because he had two more after he came to Weimar, right?
Yes.
He killed
let's
two
see.
more people.
Yeah, but
or three more people.
One was in that town that was close to Weimar.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like both of those. He killed
So it
in
was-
Weimar, went somewhere else, came back to Dubina,
Yeah.
and then went two other places.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was Weimar for 2, and then Naomi Dominguez in Houston, and then Joseph. Oh, that was the other thing is that I forgot to write this down. The vehicle of Naomi was driven from her house to Dubina.
Yeah.
He would kill that lady, drive the same vehicle that he stole from Naomi all the way back to Del Rio, Texas,
Del Rio, yeah.
which is border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mexico.
The border.
And
yeah.
then from there, get back on a train and go over to the last murders of George Morber and Carolyn Frederick.
Like, how did he not get pulled over?
Yo.
It's crazy.
killed a dude for black magic. Like,
Yes, so that again, that's him. This is all in
Yeah.
trial, like where he's like
Okay.
justifying
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, he said black magic was like the.
That almost
reasoning.
sounds like he's spitting. Like he's trying to find
Yeah.
what would
Yeah.
like get to the jury, the jury or whatever.
And the FBI
did
documentary.
he have an attorney?
Yeah, I'm almost positive. You have to.
Yeah, I think
you
the
have to.
states
You
has to
don't have
supply
to.
one, right?
He did. He
Okay.
did have one
Yeah,
because
you-
there was some
You don't
quotes.
have to. If
Yeah.
you want one supplied, you can.
No, I didn't add it because again, these people and specifically people like him that try to blame it off, it make me irate. It makes me so mad.
Yeah.
His defense attorney was saying something. He's being quoted as saying like, "Well, now I hope all murders close to railroads don't just get thrown on this guy." Like, fucking okay, like yeah.
I hope they do.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Attorneys.
How can you say something?
Yeah, no.
like
Attorneys will grasp at the most illegitimate shit.
Yes,
Like,
yeah. It's just whatever they can. And they tried for a reason of insanity, and the courts did not. Did
I
not
heard.
go for it.
I heard you say Ocala.
Yeah,
That's where Data remembers from.
yeah.
that? Oh, nice.
When I first saw it, I immediately thought, "Oh, Kyle."
And then the fucking IDs that got me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he started leaving the IDs and like you said, studying them.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
So that was all found in the FBI documentary where I'm sure it was staged, but it would literally be like a half-eaten sandwich, an apple, and then like 2 IDs. And like it was that was how it looked. Like they would walk in, there would be half-eaten food, the house torn apart, and he'd just be eating, looking at these IDs, like trying to study their height, weight, where they're from, their eye color.
What do
like-
you think that's about? Do you think
Power.
it's like remorse?
No, it's him. Like this is the life that I
Like him
just took.
taking stats of
Yeah.
like his.
This is like look
what
at,
he did.
because what somebody explained it as like look at what I just took.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
And then the prowling of the woman in Waco at Baylor.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So was that the first time that he actually like scoped out like the place?
right next to railroads.
Yeah, but you said he waited.
So he like because
Did he wait on other times?
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't like just immediately barging in, but
Yeah.
it was noted that because that was Claudia Benton. That's the one that he was only charged for one murder.
Yeah.
Claudia Benton's, because he left all the fingerprints.
Yeah. On the car and
Yeah,
everything.
the car all over the house, sexual evidence, like all kinds of stuff. That's another thing. He didn't give a shit. He
Yeah.
just did whatever, didn't care.
And see how far he got.
Yeah.
How long.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
this
like-
is not a great look for our justice system, but he did get a sentencing. I wish he would have
Yeah.
suffered more, but
Also, what the hell is he gonna do with the banjo?
This is the thing. Yeah, it's just like it didn't
Like
matter.
I understand like tech like cameras, TVs,
Oh, okay,
stuff
yeah.
that he could sell to like
There was a he
get back
took a
to
couple
Mexico or
guitars.
something.
He took a couple guitars.
But like a banjo, like come
Yeah,
on.
It was literally like whatever he saw. Like this is just like whatever. It's
I thought
mine.
that was
Maybe it
funny.
was one of the gifts.
And,
It could have been.
Yeah.
And the main thing I wanted to add was what happened in Weimar because of it, and like what T told us today, that the whole town was coming together to basically catch this monster,
Yeah.
and it gave me big Halloween vibes.
Oh, that's
Like
right.
how the
yeah.
whole town just comes to, and even where they have the hysteria moment where they believe that this insane person over here is Michael, and they chase him throughout the hospital, and he's just trying to get away from the fucking mob. And like that's exactly what happened here in Weimar. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And then
As sad as it is to say, life imitates art. You know,
yeah,
and then the
or art imitates
the
life.
people thugging down Mexican dudes.
Yeah.
And then like they're so afraid they're just like rambling in Spanish because they don't know any English.
Yeah.
And like they're thinking that this dude is the
Yeah, this
dude
is the
because
killer, yeah.
they can't even respond in English.
And,
they get beat up for it.
T would also tell us that like Weimar was known and is still kind of known for just like people, like specifically Mexican, Hispanic people
Travelers,
coming in.
yeah.
Just like they come in, they work for a little while, they move on to the
You'll
next.
never
place.
see him
Yeah,
again.
you'll never see him again. So
interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
yeah, just because of location off the highway,
Yeah.
you go to
I-10,
Houston.
or
Yeah,
I-10.
off of I-10, you got Houston one way, and you got what is it? What's the next major city?
Antonio.
San Antonio. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to add on my way home today, I drove past the church and the parsonage that this happened, and yeah, I'm gonna say 150 to 200 feet ish away from the
railroad.
railroad track was the parsonage. So he
crazy.
literally hopped off, and I have a video. The way that the railroad track works is that it comes from, if you're looking left to right,
Like curves around, right?
it's not even very curved. It's what happens is it's flat. It's more of a plateau, and then it dives. It goes down to where the sides of the railroad track, the earth around it, starts to go up.
Oh, so he was able to jump right
So he
onto
was able
that
to
little hill.
jump off, yeah, either on or off, and then not be seen. Because if you get off on the flat part, there's just businesses, houses, and everything. And the other crazy thing is that I don't know if the house directly next to it was recent or not, but the parsonage was parsonage, 5 inches fence, 5 inches house.
Did they
Like, it
ever
was very
did they
close.
ever say how long it was from the moment he killed them and then found them on Sunday?
No, I don't think there was I didn't get a time of death,
Okay.
whatever it was, but it was that night. It was the night before.
Oh, so it was like Saturday night.
Yes.
And then they found him Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, yeah. Yeah, because they, like I said, the dude just like killed him, left the murder weapon, like the food was eaten. all that
Also,
stuff.
another thing that Marcus added is that he swears that he saw him walking through
Oh, I forgot
the
to add this.
Gadinki, which is a festival. It's like Schulenberg Fest, but in Weimar,
Which for-
or like our fair.
Yeah, so
and
for people that don't know, small town Texas, we have fairs
county fairs.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, every town has their own, and it's a big deal.
Carnival rides,
Funnel cake,
carnival people.
local bands.
Yeah.
Funnel cakes is all
Your-
that matters.
Your typical carnival, but with like country artists and like small town shit.
And Gadinki specifically is on one stretch of road.
Yeah.
So it's a very small one. And I don't think Marcus saw him, but he said he heard stories.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay.
He heard stories of people
He
seeing this
like
dude
just
just like
walking through the Gadinki, like he's one of them
after the murder.
after the murder.
After the murders had happened, like they said that they remember seeing this dude. Because here's the thing, is the murders took place, I believe it was May 2nd.
Yeah.
And the Gadinki is the first weekend of May.
It was like May 8th or May 9th.
Yeah.
So he was there that long?
He was either there that long or he came back.
Yeah.
Because this dude is just prolific
Shit.
traveler. Like he's just always moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not is not
Yeah.
confirmed.
That's
but
up in the air,
Oh,
but
man.
Still, just
Dude,
the thought.
this has
I
been-
wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah,
The way that
for
he
real.
has been, and with the other stuff. Yeah.
Man, this episode has been.
It's
so
a heavy
much.
one, dude.
Yeah, I thought exorcisms was bad.
Yeah.
Jeez, this is. Oh my god, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a beefy one, and again, I didn't expect it to get me.
when you started saying
like, choking up.
the
Yeah.
names at the end, oh,
I know you
Yeah.
sat when I realized what you were doing. I was like, "Fuck, dude!" And then you started choking. I was like, "If you fucking cry, I'm gonna fucking cry."
It's hit me.
I was about to make the joke of his rap sheet was this big.
Of the book.
For
real, yeah.
The giant 3-foot tall book.
Yeah. All right, so you guys ready to close this out? We got a draw from Steven Alexander, huh?
Yeah, I think it's my turn.
It's
I
your
haven't- I haven't
turn.
drawn in a minute.
All right, go
Well,
for
we
it.
only got 4 in there, so reach on in and grab one.
Steven Alexander, the Jar of Stories.
Once again, if you're newer to the podcast, we have a little jar that has papers with a
more
wax
than a
seal.
jar.
Yeah, it's named after the jar from Elden Ring.
And what we do is we draw from it, and then that will be either one or, like today, all of our topics for the next
Yeah.
story.
So I just drew. I'm gonna hold it up at Josh's. Oh, just kidding. I drew blood.
Blood?
Okay.
Blood.
So
Blood.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember what I thought when I wrote this one down, but this was actually you told me
It
to
was,
write this
it
one.
was one of the cards.
Yeah, so we have these little cards that are part of a game, and we just took some ideas from that.
So we need to tell a scary story that involves
It involves blood.
Yeah.
So you have free
think
range.
that's
Maybe
easy.
this could be a refresher.
So I think I wanted to add that more because of my history with hospitals and needles.
Ooh, okay.
I used to be like petrified of
Oh.
like seeing my blood come out of my arm when like getting my blood drawn.
I'd never been like that.
I did. Okay, I have a little bit of a funny story. Okay, it's not funny. It's kind of fucked up. But
And
it's-
also my sister is terrified, like not terrified, but like she gets very queasy at the sight of blood.
Yeah.
so there was. So I don't like needles. Like they make me like when.
I used to be like that, but I'm kind of chill now.
Yeah, like when Vex, my wife, when she went to go get like blood drawn for
Oh, yeah.
like when she was
Blood
pregnant.
drawn specifically is
Yeah, like I'm sitting there and then like I'm like, man, I need to sit down.
You were getting
yeah,
lightheaded.
like I was getting like she was fine. She was just like chilling.
That's like the same thing as like a dad in the hospital room when the baby's being delivered.
yeah.
Which
He's
that-
fainting more than the
Which
than the
that
mom.
part wasn't as bad. But anyway, so whenever I was in high school, we had the blood drive stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget sitting out there waiting to do that. I don't know what like put it in my head to
Yeah.
give blood.
Yeah.
And I remember this girl was sitting in a chair and I don't know what happened, but the needle
No.
fell
Slipped
out.
Oh no.
And it just started going pss, 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 and she's just like, ugh. And she just like passes out, dude. I was like, yeah, nope.
Yeah. I've never once done a blood drive, as bad as it makes me feel, because I would like to,
I've
but
never done one either.
the earliest memory I have of getting my blood drawn was I had pneumonia when I was a very, very young child, like maybe under a year old.
A wee lad, if
A
you
wee
will.
lad, if you will, yeah. And I remember that might be one of my earlier memories, but getting blood drawn and how painful it was,
Really?
and I've never done it again. Yeah,
You said it. You thought it was painful.
You never done it again?
I've never gotten my blood drawn again.
How?
Yeah,
You've never like had to get like
not while I was conscious.
like not like a physical. You never had to get like
you don't
I
have
don't
to get
think
blood
that.
drawn.
Yeah,
for
you don't have to get
physicals.
your blood drawn for physical.
I do. Well, I guess because of my
I
Yeah,
do.
I have high blood pressure stuff, or just like cholesterol
Yeah, so,
issues and
yeah.
stuff like that.
yeah.
They got a
every
test for
every
that.
time I go to my like 6 month like checkup, or not every time, but a lot
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of times he'll want to do a lab on me
Yeah, no,
just to see where my blood is at. But yeah, no, I used. Did y'all hear movement? I heard movement.
I've
Anyway.
heard a few times throughout the episode something over there, but I'm gonna
Anyway.
Serial
Anyway.
killers.
more.
We've talked about so many fucking things, and y'all are gonna start doing shit with serial killers.
But yeah, no, I've told y'all before that I was in the hospital for like a year straight when I was 4,
Uh-huh.
and like a couple years or after that, I had to get my blood drawn like once a month. I had to go to Austin and like
Dang.
get my blood drawn
That's crazy.
because they had to monitor my blood, and
So,
so
before we move on, are we satisfied with
I got
blood
kinda-
story, or do we want to draw one more?
I could
You can do something with that.
I
Okay,
got-
cool,
I have an
do that.
idea.
unless y'all like really want
I
to.
know that like I have an idea with like blood and like.
I think that would be just a good for one person to do a story.
Okay, well then
Instead
yeah,
of all
like,
three of us.
Okay, so you got one then.
I mean, I could definitely find
Because
one.
there is a location. I haven't done a haunted location in a long time, and
I think we have a couple locations in there. I think we have like hospital, house, and
Oh no, this is like a
prison.
specific
Okay,
like, place.
gotcha.
I think it's in Texas. Vex was the one that like told me about it.
Oh.
She's like, you should do a story on this. I was like, all right, sweet, sounds cool. Hopefully she remembers.
That's a good, another good thing. Have you ever had IV?
I have had IV.
Okay. So,
A
I mean,
few
that's
times.
basically the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember. I just remember a lot of pain in like the crook of your elbow like area, and like I don't know. That's all I remember.
Oh,
and
that's
Well, I
because you
could tell you-
probably don't have predominant
What
veins.
year was this?
maybe. Oh, I was maybe 2000.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
so
shit.
and also like needle technology has come a long
Well,
way.
that and my mom is a nurse, so she said that there's two main types of needles. I can't remember the other one, but the main one is butterfly.
Yeah.
One is wider, a lot
Yeah.
more painful, but it draws quicker. One is thinner,
Yeah.
doesn't hurt as much, but it draws slower. And she said that they chose the wider, more painful one on me to get it, so they could just get it done.
Can you? I hate this. I got
See,
so
I'm
many
com-
tattoos, but needles fuck me up.
You see, but
yeah,
what
I'm
I've
comfortable
heard
talking
is-
about it now because I'm so
Yeah.
used to it at this
What
point.
I've heard about tattoos and needles is that it's a difference between it just breaking the skin and it penetrating muscle.
Yeah, like
That's, like, the
going
big thing.
into several like layers of your body.
Yeah.
And then the fact of it that it's in a vein
Mm-hmm.
and it's pulling from that vein, that's what got me.
Dude, if I ever ran into a needle doll, I would die. instantly.
Story,
Needles doll.
story.
I would literally just
being-
fucking
Story
fall over
idea.
dead. Speaking, okay, so while we're doing this, so
Okay.
that listeners can like,
Get a viral and fucking big
I
ass
really
needle now.
want to do a story, Mr. Sweet Smile.
Oh, okay.
I want us to all incorporate it and it be like a whole thing,
Ooh.
like a whole episode dedicated to Mr. Sweet Smile. I don't know if we just write a really
Ooh.
long story.
We could. Okay. I don't know if this would be interesting for us
What if
because
it's-
we're not going to be used
What
to
if
it.
it's Mr. Sweet Smile has 3 personalities?
Oh, that's
So
actually
this is
kind of-
what I was going to get at. Is one time when we stream afterwards, we just need a storyboard.
Yeah.
Just like let's show them the,
Oh, that'd
the
be
writing
cool.
process. You know?
Yeah.
And the next thing we end up looking like Charlie, fucking putting the
Oh yeah,
the
like
shit
the
together.
Pepe Sylvia. Pepe Sylvia.
God damn it. All right, let's close this out.
All right. So that's it for episode 15 of Dead Reflections Podcast. We'd like to shout out our friends in Terraform Podcast, Dark Hour Podcast, and our new friends from Hauntedly Podcast. Here's a short clip of what that podcast is all about.
Do you have it?
Insert clip.
Oh,
Insert clip.
We encourage you to give them all a listen and check them all out.
Hell yeah. And follow us at Dead Reflections Podcast on all social medias, or follow the link tree in our socials. Has Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of the above. Email us at deadreflectionspod@gmail.com to submit your stories, please. I need stories. I'm running out of stories.
I would very much like to do a viewer story. God, this one
Yes,
really me.
I would love if we could
And
get
let
enough.
us know how we're doing. Speaking of that, I got another message from I'm so bad at remembering names. From Edward. Got another message from Edward today. He
Dogman.
yeah, Dogman.
Okay.
Dogman
Dogman guy.
request.
We remember you, Edward. Thank you.
I'm just terrible at names. But he basically is saying loving the show. That he was even like, y'all don't know what the Jersey Devil is. Whenever you're talking about
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you for listening.
you.
Thank you for getting mad at
And-
us. We deserve it.
And he also said that he wants us to throw Wendigos in.
Oh,
Okay, we
you
can
know
for
what?
sure
I
add
haven't. Yeah, I forgot that. I completely forgot about Wendigos.
Yeah.
That shit's crazy.
And so
And so, for listeners, viewers, watchers, anybody, things like that is what we thrive off of. We
Yes.
need suggestions and stuff
Yes,
like
please,
that. So
please,
please do it.
and all the band related social medias can be found at FWFTX.
Please don't forget to leave a rating or review anywhere you listen. They really do help us to get our name out there and find new listeners. Thank you for all the continued support. And remember, tell your family, tell your friends, and tell the monsters under your bed to listen to Dead Reflections Podcast. Have a spooky night.